Video conferencing peaked in 2020. Mass adoption, high quality, equitable calls, simple to use. But how did we get there? And when will we return back to the peak performance that we saw in 2020? So today we're talking about video conferencing and how it has evolved, a potted history if you like. We'll discuss what have been the biggest catalysts for change and how have expectations of the users themselves changed over time, and then what happens next. Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. I'm the Meeting Room Doctor. Let's open surgery. So let's start with the basics. What is a video conference? Well, quite simply, it's a facility used so that two parties or more can talk to each other at different physical locations, both appearing as audio and visual feeds rather than in person. The idea being that audio and visual provides a better connection than telephone calls alone, but without the need to travel to that location. Video conferencing has evolved now to include multiple parties, events and presentations, webinars, and also to share content as well as the video and audio feeds of the people themselves. Initially, video conferences were used business to business, and only really senior executives had access to these facilities, and it was to avoid costly travel and saving time and adding flexibility to their days. In the early days, hardware was restrictive, complicated and hugely expensive, requiring lots of internet speed to make it work and a heavy involvement from the IT department. The experience wasn't really very good at all. Today, video calls are part of everyday business, flexibly accessed via laptops or in meeting rooms. It's cheap, it's easy to use, and using software applications like Zoom, Teams, Google Meet and WebEx, we now have mass adoption. So how did we get here and where did it all begin? Well, the early years, kind of pre-1930s, it was kind of more research and development rather than practical use. Notable achievements at that time: in the 1870s, Bell Labs came up with the concept of transmitting an image and audio over a wire. It will be decades before it actually happened though. In 1927, camera technology had evolved sufficiently to allow one-way transmission of a live broadcast between New York and the White House. A few years later, AT&T, which was formerly Bell Labs, demonstrated two-way communication between two of their New York offices. This was considered the genesis of today's video conference. Remember, back then we had no internet, making use and adoption almost impossible outside a research and development environment. Between the 1930s and the 1990s, distance improved slowly from a few miles to hundreds of miles. We moved from grayscale images to colour transmission, and frame speeds improved from a couple of frames per second to what would be considered broadcastable number now. Remember, 24 frames per second are what's used for standard TV broadcast, so genuine communication can happen once we hit that 24 frames per second level. The image resolution improved, but it was still limited as early commercial systems ran on a dedicated T1 or E1 connection, and this was only about 1.5 megabits per second, and this limited the scope of transmission. During this time, hardware improved, commercialization started, but communication continued to be only point to point. In the 1990s, Polycom were born, and by the late 90s, they launched their first triangular speakerphone, a format that, although heavily developed, is still seen in some meeting rooms today. This was the first commercialization of a full duplex high-quality audio system for use in a meeting room. What I mean by full duplex, it means that the sound can be sent and received at the same time. Through the 2000s, we saw video conferencing develop in two channels: business-to-business meetings using equipment in dedicated conference rooms, and personally using software-based video calls on smartphones and the development of applications such as Skype. The 2010s saw mass adoption of smartphones and the use of video calls in those. In 2010, Apple's iPhone 4 was the first device to offer a front-facing camera, and their FaceTime app boomed. Smartphone video call use surged, offering easy access to long-distance multi-party calls and calls across platforms like Apple or Android devices. Consumer technology at this point was well ahead. Up to the 2020s, meeting room technology did evolve. Increasing internet speeds allowed for a continued improvement in video and voice quality. And networking tools such as quality of service allowed time-critical transmissions to be prioritized, giving video conferencing reliability. But it was still not yet widespread. Video worked well in corporate businesses where end-to-end control was possible, but calls outside this scenario were rare and technically challenging. The in-person meeting was still preferred, and calling between different hardware vendors was still a challenge. Latterly in the decade, software providers such as BlueJeans and Starleaf were born to aggregate traditional hardware together. This worked well and led to a wider adoption in SME market space. Within the hardware ecosystem, the software experience also developed over time, providing camera and audio controls on touchscreens, access to dual-screen video conferencing systems to better improve the experience for both near and far end, and an assortment of viewing templates. Content sharing also became widely used as attendees wanted to share documents to the remote participants so that they can talk around these. Hardware started also to become more granular. What I mean by this is video conferencing was no longer confined to the boardroom, and the usage in different settings was becoming important. So vendors such as Polycom, Lifesize and Cisco started to produce room kits for different size environments. Zoom was launched in 2013, which initially allowed up to 25 people to conference together. By the end of the month, it had 400,000 users, and within 6 months, there was 1 million users on the platform. Zoom now surpasses 300 million daily active users, with conferences up to 300 people. And the launch of Zoom Rooms, the dedicated meeting room experience within the Zoom platform. Microsoft bought Skype in 2011, creating Skype for Business to complement their consumer Skype offering. Skype evolved into Microsoft Teams in 2017, and this offered a similar experience to the Zoom experience. But it was part of the Microsoft security ecosystem, making it an excellent choice for corporate business. The launch of the Microsoft Teams Room made the in-meeting room experience much more seamless. Both Zoom and Microsoft Teams are not widely deployed in meeting rooms at this point, but bring your own device systems emerged to support multiple software-based hardware. The COVID-19 pandemic was both a point of massive adoption and a trigger for significant technical development in the video conferencing space. We all recall lockdowns forcing people to work from home, and education of our children went online. And this led to an adoption boom for products like Zoom and Teams, and they were now considered mainstream. Conducting meetings on video kept business, education, government, legal systems and healthcare going. Frankly, the experience was pretty good, far better than the room-to-room conferences that most people had experienced up till now. It was an equitable experience. Everyone had their own camera presenting themselves with a clear head and shoulder image. The speaker and microphones were personal so people could see, hear and be heard. Immediately post the COVID lockdowns, as the world came back to the office, they did so on a hybrid basis. Conference rooms needed to change to accommodate this seismic change in working practices, now twice in as many years. Many meeting rooms were large and fewer people were in the office, so a larger number of smaller rooms were needed. There was less face-to-face meetings and teams were happy to meet virtually, although we are now seeing a drive to get people back to face-to-face meetings. Meeting room equipment wasn't necessarily set up for the software platforms that we've become used to, the Zooms and the Teams. Users were familiar with these interfaces, however, and it was easy for everyone to talk together. So major software providers recognized this and started to provide meeting room-based solutions to support the return to the office. So Zoom launched Zoom Rooms and Microsoft launched Microsoft Teams Rooms. And bring your own device became a necessary element to support cross-platform calls. Bringing the story up to date, what do I see? while businesses are deploying ecosystem rooms in great numbers. Teams, Zoom and Google have won the software battle, but not exclusively. And this means that bring your own device is an important addition to a meeting room. And this allows users to be able to plug in a laptop and access software from a myriad of different vendors whilst using the meeting room's hardware, the cameras, the microphones, the speakers and the screen itself. The rooms then become vendor agnostic. Smaller rooms are still popular and they must be simple to join and simple to invite. There is more attention now on the installation environment, reverberance, lighting, software pickup zones for cameras and microphones. AI is driving the need for an equitable experience. Cameras are now either automatically framing or putting users in a galleried view, recreating, if you like, the experience they had during the pandemic. Cameras are also capable of multiple streams from a single camera shot, which means that each individual sat in the meeting room can have their own stream and be identified as such. Artificial intelligence built within today's hardware is delivering the equitable experience that users now demand. Cameras are now automatically framing or putting in galleried views the users in the room, creating those head and shoulder shots that we saw and loved during the pandemic. Cameras are capable of multiple streams to allow them to be able to appear as their own head and shoulder shot, even though they're sat in a meeting. And multiple camera systems for larger rooms are allowing users to be able to capture different shots dependent on who's talking, making the whole environment a little bit more dynamic. Microphones are capable of locking onto speakers and removing background noise distractions. And this delivers two things. It delivers a clear voice to the far end participants for the attendees, but also allows access to artificial intelligence productivity tools like Copilot, ChatGPT. And these systems are used, first of all, to transcribe the meeting, but then as follow-up. People will be able to generate from these transcriptions follow-up actions, meeting minutes, analysis of decisions, and also be able to capture those meetings for compliance purposes as well. Voice recognition used to automatically ID room attendees and attribute conversations to them. And this kind of brings us up to date to where we are in the meeting room. It'll be interesting to see where the next decade brings us. Let me know in the comments what features you'd like to see or where you think the direction of travel is going to be. If you found this video useful, check out our other Fundamentals series videos where we cover a wide variety of meeting room technologies and investigate what AV professionals consider when specifying a room. Don't forget, if you have an active project and would like the Meeting Room Doctor team to help you out, check out our Meeting Room Doctor Surgery and Meeting Room Doctor On Your Team services on our website. There's a link in the description if you need it. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. Be sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Let's all agree, every meeting room deserves to be doctor approved. But for now, I've got other patients waiting. Meeting Room Doctor out.